Hi, this is Trudy from Howard Tax Prep LLC. We are located in the South Loop of Chicago, Illinois, right off Roosevelt and Canal, inside of the Roosevelt Collection. This video today will show you how to manually do your own bookkeeping. Oftentimes, people are ready to have their taxes prepared, and they have not been keeping records with QuickBooks, and sometimes people keep records with QuickBooks, but they actually do more damage than good because they incorrectly categorize expenses. They don't know, what goes where, and so then the financial reports are incorrect. The financial reports being your profit and loss, your balance sheets, cash flow statements, etc., they are incorrect because the original input information was incorrect. So oftentimes what I've noticed with the software is only as good as its user. And you guys are kind of familiar with that because if you've ever seen a bad Photoshop, then you know what I mean when I say that the software oftentimes is only as good as the user. Also, many of my small business owners don't have the income to pay what I charge to do the bookkeeping when I have to do back bookkeeping because we're looking at 12 months of bookkeeping. And those that do have the income don't understand that with business income, it's totally different than income that you've worked for. With business income, you pay expenses first and then you pay taxes on your money. So you don't want to be cheap and, oh, well, this place is $5 less or $10 less, because then that means you're just going to be taxed on that $10 that you think you saved, versus as an employee or a person earning a different type of income. Then of course you want to try to pinch pennies because you are only you only have left to spend what you have left after you have been taxed. So if I worked a job and I brought home $5,000 per month, I probably made $7,500 for the month. So yeah, I'm trying to count every penny. But that's just one caveat. Don't always go into business expenses with an employee mindset, because it's a totally different spending theory in order to lower your taxation. But I digress. All right. So if you look here, this is a bank statement and it has monthly amounts at the top. And the reason that I have monthly amounts at the top is because oftentimes I will show people a list. I'll give you a nice little list to complete, and it has the annual amounts, and people won't complete the list. I'll get text messages with you know, handwritten pieces of paper. I have all these different things instead of what I've asked for. And the IRS and the state of Illinois, they are cracking down on making people verify their expenses. So I just decided to use a bank statement. This is not a client's bank statement. This is a business bank statement to kind of show you exactly what I'm looking for, what you need to do when you decide to try to tackle going through your bank statements on your own and doing your own bookkeeping and your expenses. Okay. So if you look here, the first line says 55.90. That was a merchant payment that was to Walmart, and that was for office supplies. Now, again, remember I just said the IRS in the state of Illinois, they are cracking down on you proving your expenses. So without a receipt, if I were audited, the IRS could say, "Oh, well, how do we know this 55.90 was for office supplies? It could have been for clothes for my grandson. It could have been for things for my home." But that's why you want to have Receipt Bank, and I'll probably have a link somewhere in the video or with a post. And Receipt Bank allows you to scan your receipt, so you don't have to worry about it fading, the information getting lost, and it's probably maybe it's $10, maybe $12. But again, you're running a business. So that $12 a month should not be that difficult for you to spend to make sure that you are tracking your receipts, and that if you ever have to prove an expense, you have the proof available. Next, you'll see Outback charge. So that's meals and entertainment. Now, when I am keeping my records, although in this bank statement it just says meals, I would have put meals Perhaps that was an advertising conversation, or maybe that was a sales meeting where we were talking about our 2021 goals. Just, oh, and well, this was way back in April, so maybe we were talking about, the tax returns that we've done, how many we expect to do, if we were meeting our sales goals, etc. You'll also see Cash App to Jeanette. That at that time that was a 1099 independent contractor. So I just put 1099. Anytime you have like any internet expenses, like for your website, for me, my GoDaddy was $180. So that's my advertising. Parking fees, that's $11. Oftentimes people will put park and auto. Well, it needs to be separated because parking and tolls you can take as a separate expense in addition to your mileage. So you don't just lump all of that together, and it's not lumped with gas or oil change or anything. So you make sure that you specify parking and make sure that you specify tolls. Then we also have here again meals, office supplies, bank fees, and then 1099. Now, if you'll look to your left in this column here, I'll have 30, it's $30, and that's a cent Zelle payment. And it says not an expense personal, so do not include in expenses. Oftentimes people tend to think that their personal spending their profit on personal things is a business expense just simply because you took it out of the business account, and that is not correct. So I can't count that $30 toward any expense because that was personal, right? So that's a portion of the profits going to myself. Here again, we have another $400 I sent Zelle. Now I know that that $400 was for one of my other businesses, because some of my businesses, they work in tandem with each other. They pay leases to each other, licensing fees, etc. So here, not an expense, don't count. And a personal, $78.39. Again, not an expense. I don't want to count that as a business expense. So I would not sit here and add all of this up and say, oh, my profits, because you see here, if you look to the far right, 26 items totaling 2,090.40. Well, that entire 2,090.40 was not all business expenses. I actually had a few personal expenses here, which you should never have personal expenses coming out of your business bank account, because if you were ever sued, you don't want the attorneys to be able to say you did not respect the LLC or the corporation format, and that you were using this account as an alter ego, which was really an extension of yourself. Okay, and so now we're going to move on. And so now we move on to page 2 of the bank statement, and you'll see here is just a few more expenses, 1099 expenses, a few bank fees, another ATM withdrawal. Now in this case, this was a personal expense, but for you, if it was an expense where you paid your 1099 contractors, because unfortunately some of you all are still paying people in cash, which I've talked about it a million times. But again, if you're going to pay anyone over $600 per year as a 1099 contractor, you need to get a W-9 from them, unless they are a corporation. If the person is a corporation, you do need to verify it on CyberDrive or the Secretary of State for whatever state they are in. And the IRS does not require you to pay a corporation unless it's an attorney. You do have to pay, you do have to report the income to attorneys. But if it's a regular corporation, you do not have to report those payments, because for some reason the IRS assumes that a corporation will report all of their income. So again, if this $280 in your case was for a personal expense, you would want to put 1099 contractor. If I will be issuing your 1099s, you want to put 1099, let's just say Otis Clay, or you want to identify who that 1099 income should go to. Then you'll see we have wire transfers, bank fees, and then you'll see something called cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold really is going to be more for my contractors, but even sometimes in my arena, which is the accounting and the financial arena, I will have cost of goods sold, because it will be, let's say I set up a business entity for someone and I take the entire payment from them, and then I use my corporate card to pay the state of Illinois, well, the fees that I had to pay to the state of Illinois or to the state of Oklahoma, wherever we decide to set up the entity, that becomes a cost of goods sold to me because I had to pay someone else in order to provide the service and resell the service. Okay. So if you move all the way down, you'll notice now what I've done after I went in and I identify each transaction. Here now I've put, okay, my office supplies are $198.90 for that particular month. Meals 54.19, 1099 worker $162. You guys can look at this and figure this out. This is not complicated. So once you identify each transaction, you're just going to go and add up each of your transactions in each category, and you'll write it down at the bottom of your bank statement. If you don't have room on the bottom of your bank statement, you can either write it on the side, or the last resort would be for you to write it on a sheet of paper, I guess, and just scan it, that paper, with your bank statement. Okay. And now finally, we are going to look at the sheets that I provide for my tax clients to break down their expenses. You'll see that this particular sheet is real estate brokers, but these are always the annual amounts. I have custom sheets for contractors, daycare owners, those who own real estate, rental properties, truck drivers. We have different scenarios because each profession has their own set of expenses and they may differ from profession to profession. However, you still need to put your annual amounts. And so where do we get these annual amounts from? We get the annual amounts from our bank statements. So we just went over bank statements 1 and bank statement page 2, and so now we're going to take those amounts for the 12 months, so that's January through December. And when you put your amounts on this sheet and you provide this sheet to me, this should have your annual amounts. So you'll notice for advertising and signs, I had an annual amount of $1,872. Now these are just examples, okay? But I want you to understand where the numbers on this sheet should be coming from, because oftentimes I have seen where people just literally make up things. Oh, I estimate this. Oh, I guesstimate that. You're just guessing, and your taxes are based on actual income, not on what you think, what you guessed. We need to have some actual expenses and some actual income, and this is how you get actual income and expenses. Now if you don't have a bank account, things are going to be a little bit more difficult because now you'll need to use receipts. You need to add those up. You'll need to try to manually figure out your expenses. You can recreate the income from the invoices that you issue. So there are ways to recreate your income, but the easiest way is if you can get a business bank account, you want to get a business bank account if possible. But you'll notice here, so my annual parking fees are $113. Tolls were $62.50. I have how much I paid to 99 workers, etc. So I hope this helps, and either you're viewing this video because it's tax time, or we're going to be doing a tax resolution option for you where we're helping you with your tax debt, or perhaps we are doing tax planning and I need you to know how to categorize the things, each category, and how to come up with the amounts for each category. And I need you to know what's monthly, that's your bank statements, and then what your annual amounts are. Okay, so again, this is Trudy Howard with Howard Tax Prep LLC. And bookkeeping, if this is too much for you, it can be as low as $59 per month. So if you're running a business, I mean, you're making about $45,000 a year, you should be able to squeeze out $59 per month out of your business in order to do bookkeeping, because what you will find is oftentimes people try to do these things themselves and they don't get done because you're trying to wear too many hats and do too many things. So let the professionals do what they do. But here again, I made this video for those who don't want to let the professionals do what they do. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, you can email me at T, as in Trudy, Howard, at howardtaxprep.com. Thank you.